Now, let's learn how to calculate mean and median values in Microsoft Excel. Whenever you start to examine a new data set, the first thing you should do is discover some basic facts about that data. In this movie, I will show you how to make several of those measures. My sample files 01_01_means, and you can find it in the chapter 01 folder of the exercise files collection. The data set that I have in this workbook shows the number of days in transit for a number of shipments coming from overseas. So, you can see the first shipment arrived in 23 days, the next in 1938, and the rest of the data shows the other days that were measured. If you want to find the average, or mean, of that data, that would be the sum of all those values divided by the number of values. So, if I go to cell D2, which is next to the mean label, and remember mean is the same as average. In D2 I can type equal. And then the function we use is average. And I will select the data in the range A2 through A12. Write parenthesis and enter. And we get a mean, or average, of 29. 45 days. So just under 29.5 days on average. You can also calculate the median. The median is the middle value in a set of data that has been sorted into either ascending or descending order. For example, if I were to click cell A2 and then on the Home tab of the ribbon go to Sort and Filter and then click, in this case, Sort Smallest to Largest, although I could do either largest to smallest or smallest to largest, then I get the values of 23, 27 all the way down to 38. I'll just count here, 11 rows of data. So, if I go down to the 6, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the median value is 28. So, if I go to cell D4 and type is equal to median and select A2 through A12. Write parenthesis and enter. And I do in fact get 28. One way to examine your data is to compare the mean to the median. And in this case, they are very close. So that means that your data tends to be fairly well spread out. To give you an example of how the mean and median could change, let's say that we had a shipment that was just horrible. It took 75 days to arrive. So, I'll go to cell A12 and change 38 to 75 and press enter. And you can see that the mean, or average, increased but the median did not. And that's because the value of 28 is still in the middle of the sorted list. So, I will press Ctrl+Z to undo my last change. And we are back to our original data set. One last thing about the median is that if you have an odd number of values, then the value in the middle of the sorted list is the median. If you have an even number of values, then Excel takes the average of the two that are in the middle. So, in A2 through A12 we have 11 values. If I go to cell A13, then let's say I type in 1939, then I can update the median formula so that it includes the new cell A13, enter. And you see we get the median of 28. 5, which is the average of the two values that are now in the middle of the list. I'll click to release the selection and press Ctrl+Z to undo the data entry and also the formula change. The final type of measure that I'll describe here is the mode. And that is the most frequently occurring value or values. If I go to cell D6, which is next to mode single, I'll type equal. And then I'll type mode and you see that underneath, I have mode mult, which is for multiple values, or single, SNGL. I'll click single for now and press tab. And I will select the same data range as before. a 2 through a 12. Write parenthesis and enter, and we get 28. And if I go over to the data set, I can see that 28 occurs 3 times, 27 twice and 29 twice. And everyone else occurs a single time. So, 28 is in fact the mode. If I were to change the value at the bottom from 38 to 27 and press enter, then you can see that the mode has changed to 27. And even though 27 and 28 occur the same number of times, 27 occurs first in the data set. So that means that Excel will select it instead of going with the larger value. That's the rule it uses, the first value. If you do want to find multiple values that occur most frequently, in other words, they're tied within a data set, you can use mode mult. So, I'll go to cell D8, type an equal sign, mode, MULT, and note that I still have my change from before. So, I have 27 instead of 38. Select cells a 2 through a 12. Write parenthesis and enter. And we get 27 and 28. In the past, you would have had to identify the number of modes that you wanted to display using mode mult. However, in recent versions of Excel there is the spill behavior, and that is what occurred here. Even though I typed the formula into cell D8 when I pressed enter because there were multiple values available, then it applied the same formula and spilled the result from cell D8 to D9. If I were to change the value in a 12 from 27 back to 38, then you can see that the mode is still 28, and you can see that there is only one value that occurs most frequently in the data list. So, as you can see, there are a lot of ways to get information about your data. Whether the average, the middle value or median or the most frequently occurring value or values, you can learn a lot in just a few minutes. Now, let's learn how to measure maximums, minimums, and other data characteristics in Microsoft Excel. When you analyze a set of data, you will often want to identify the smallest and largest values and also where you have cutoffs within your data set. In this movie, I will show you how to find the minimum and maximum values as well as determine measures called quartiles. My sample file is 010 to minimums, and you can find that in the Chapter 1 folder of the exercise files collection. In this workbook, I have a set of order values and they run from cell A2 all the way down, scrolling to a 40. And I have them sorted in order so it will make it easier to check the results of our formulas. If I want to use a formula to find the minimum value in my data set, then I can go to cell D2, in this case, type in equal sign, and the function is min, min. And my data range is a 2 through a 40. So, I'll type that in. Write parenthesis to close out and enter. And I see that the minimum value is 1684, which is correct. And it corresponds to the first value in the data set in a 2, which again, I sorted in order from smallest to largest. Finding the maximum value is also pretty straightforward. So, I'll click in cell D4 equal, and we used min before, we use max now. Left parenthesis, a 2 colon a 40. Right parenthesis, then enter. And the largest value is 9932. And if I scroll down to a 40, hopefully I will see 9932, and I do. Then I'll go back up and we can go to cell D6 and create a formula to measure the quartile. A quartile is a measure that shows where the 25, 50, and 75% cutoffs are in your data set. Rather than try to just explain it with words, I'll go ahead and create the formula and we can look at the result together. So, I'll type in equal sign in D6 and I'll start typing my function QUART. And we have quartile. We have two versions, quartile EXC which is exclusive and quartile INC which is inclusive. The difference between the two is that exclusive only lets you identify quartile 1, 2 and 3, whereas quartile inclusive also lets you identify the minimum and maximum value using the quartile function. So, which one you use doesn't really make any difference cause we are only looking at the middle three and we are using min and max for our minimum and maximum. So, I'll just go ahead and use exclusive which is the one that's highlighted now. And my array is a 2 through a 40 but I need to add another argument, so I'll type a comma. And we need to identify the quartile. In this case, we are looking at the 25th percentile. So, I'll press tab. I could have also typed in the number 1, right parenthesis, and enter, and I get 4293. And if I look in the data list over on the left, I see that value occurs in cell 11. I have 10 values including 4293 in the data set. So that means that I have about 40 values, and quartile number 1 ends at value number 10 when the data list is sorted in order from smallest to largest. Now let's do the same thing with quartile 2, and I will change the highlighting of cell 11 so we remember where quartile 1 ends up. So, I'll go to cell D8, type in equal sign and quartile. We are using exclusive, and then a 2 through a 40 comma, and we'll do number 2, which is the median value, and right parenthesis and enter, and we get 6062. So 6062. So, I'll scroll down. There's a value in 21 or a 21 right here. And so, I have, dragging to count, I have 10 values in that quartile. That makes sense. So, I will change the highlighting there and go back up and do quartile 3 in cell D10. So equal sign, quartile, exclusive, a 2 though a 40 then we'll do the third quartile. So, I'll type number 3 and enter, 7491. So, I'll scroll down and then there is 7491. So, I have 1, 2, 3, 10 values there. So, I will click cell 31, change the highlight and go down to the bottom. And from 32 to 40, it looks like I have 9 values there. I do. So, we have 10 values in each of the first 3 quartiles. And then for the fourth one, we have only 9, and that includes our maximum value of 9932. As you can see, this type of analysis can give you great insights into your data, the minimum, the maximum, and how the data is arranged or spread out between those two values. So if you are ready to take your skills level and unlock the full potential of your data, subscribe to my channel today. I can't wait to see you on the next video.